Every marriage has cracks. Some are small hairline fractures, nearly invisible, only noticed when a light falls a certain way. Others grow wider with time, stretching until they can no longer be ignored. For Adrian and Isabella Blackwell, their marriage seemed perfect on the outside: a polished home, a successful husband, a graceful wife. But beneath the surface, the cracks were already spreading. Isabella never meant to stray. She had built her life around loyalty, devotion, and the vows she had spoken on her wedding day. Yet loneliness has a voice, and hers grew louder with every passing night that Adrian stayed away at work. It was only when a colleague, Ethan Cross, stepped into the silence with warmth and understanding that Isabella realized how dangerous comfort could be. Adrian Blackwell was a man whose life revolved around deadlines, contracts, and the pursuit of professional excellence. At 34, he had already carved a name for himself in the world of corporate law. His firm relied on his precision, his relentless drive, and his refusal to settle for mediocrity. Clients admired him, colleagues respected him, partners envied him. But what made Adrian an exceptional lawyer also made him a distant husband. Isabella, at 31, was the opposite of Adrian in almost every way. She was warm where he was cold, intuitive where he was logical, and nurturing where he was disciplined. She worked in human resources at a multinational firm, a role that matched her natural empathy and ability to connect with people. When they met 6 years ago at a charity gala, their differences felt magnetic. Adrian admired her spirit, the way she could charm an entire table of strangers. Isabella was drawn to his quiet strength, his unwavering sense of purpose. It felt like a balance, his structure and her spontaneity merging into harmony. Their wedding had been beautiful. Friends described them as a golden couple, destined for longevity, and for the first few years, they were. But life has a way of eroding the sparkle of beginnings. Adrian's career consumed him: promotions, bigger cases, travel demands. His calendar filled faster than their dinner table. Isabella, once proud of his success, began to feel like a spectator in her own marriage. She decorated their suburban home with touches of warmth, framed photographs from their travels, candles that filled the air with vanilla and cedar. A small garden she tended with care. But increasingly, she lit candles for no one but herself. Conversations between them became transactional. Did you pay the utilities? Don't forget we need groceries. I'll be late again tonight. Don't wait for me. Intimacy, both emotional and physical, waned. Their bedroom, once filled with whispered promises, now echoed with silence. Isabella longed for him, not just his presence, but his attention. She wanted to be seen, to be heard, to feel like more than a footnote in his busy life. But every attempt to bridge the gap was met with exhaustion or distraction. I'm doing this for us, Adrian would argue. For our future, Isabella, you know that. And she did know, but knowing that didn't make the loneliness any easier. Isabella's role in human resources required her to navigate the complexities of people, their disputes, ambitions, and vulnerabilities. She was good at it, perhaps too good. She became the confidante of her colleagues, the one who listened without judgment, who offered kindness without expectation. It was in this environment that Ethan Cross entered her orbit. Ethan was 33, recently transferred from another branch of the company. Tall, with a disarming smile and a voice that carried an easy warmth. He had a way of making people feel at ease. Where Adrian's presence commanded respect, Ethan's invited comfort. On his first day, he had approached Isabella at the coffee machine. You must be the famous Isabella Blackwell. he said with a grin. She raised an eyebrow, amused. Famous? Hardly. Word travels. Everyone says you are the one who actually keeps this place running. It was a small comment, playful, but it made her laugh, something she hadn't done in weeks. From that day forward, Ethan seemed to orbit her, not intrusively, but with a natural ease. He stopped by her desk with coffee, joined her for lunch when she seemed alone, and listened, really listened, when she spoke about her day. At home, Adrian's absences grew longer. Even when present, his mind was elsewhere, buried in emails, conference calls, or trial strategies. One night, Isabella prepared his favorite dinner: roasted lamb with rosemary, garlic mashed potatoes, and a bottle of red wine they had saved from a trip to Tuscany. She wore a soft blue dress he once said made her eyes sparkle. But when Adrian arrived, his tie askew and shoulders tense, he barely noticed the effort. Isabella, I can't, he muttered, loosening his tie. I need to prep for tomorrow's case. Just put it in the fridge. Her heart sank. The meal sat untouched, the candles flickering uselessly until she blew them out. Later that week, Ethan asked casually, so, any special plans for the weekend? She forced a smile. Not really. Adrian swarmed with work again. Ethan's expression softened. He's lucky, to have someone like you waiting for him. The words lingered long after the conversation ended. What began as casual conversations soon grew deeper. Ethan shared pieces of his life: his failed relationship, his struggle with loneliness in a new city, his love for music, and late night runs along the river. In return, Isabella found herself confiding in him, not about the betrayal she feared, but about the emptiness she felt. She admitted how isolated she was, how much she longed for connection. Ethan never judged, he never dismissed her feelings. Instead, he offered validation, the very thing Adrian no longer provided. And slowly, imperceptibly, Ethan became the voice she sought when silence at home grew unbearable. Isabella didn't think of it as betrayal. Not yet. It was harmless, she told herself. Just conversation, just friendship. But deep down, she knew how fragile the line was. One evening, as she laughed at something Ethan had said, she caught her reflection in the office window, her smile radiant, her eyes alive. A pang of guilt struck her. When was the last time Adrian had made her feel that way? She pushed the thought away, but cracks, once formed, rarely mend on their own. Isabella tried, at first, to resist the pull she felt towards Ethan. She reminded herself of her vows, of the life she had promised Adrian, of the home they had built together. But routines have a way of shaping lives, and her routine was a lonely one. Every morning, Adrian left before sunrise, his suit pressed, his briefcase clutched like armor. His goodbye was a hurried kiss on her cheek, more habit than affection. By the time Isabella returned from work, the house was dark, the table set for one, and Adrian was often nowhere to be found. She filled the silence with television, with books, with long baths scented with lavender, but nothing erased the growing ache that she was married, yet living as though she were alone. And so, when Ethan texted a simple, rough day, want to grab a coffee? She often said yes. At first, their meetings were innocent: a coffee on a rainy afternoon, lunch breaks extended by a few minutes, conversations that began with work gossip and drifted into music, books, Dreams. Ethan had a gift. He made Isabella feel interesting. When she spoke, he listened, not with the distracted nods Adrian offered, but with genuine curiosity. His eyes locked onto hers, as though her words mattered more than anything else in the world. One evening, after a particularly long day, Ethan invited her to join him for a walk along the riverbank. The city light shimmered on the water, the hum of the traffic softened by distance. Isabella hesitated but agreed. As they walked, their shoulders brushed lightly. Neither moved away. The air carried a charged silence, a space where words no longer mattered. Isabella felt both exhilarated and terrified. She told herself that it was nothing, just two friends walking. But her heart betrayed her, thundering with every accidental touch. At home, Adrian barely noticed the changes, or if he did, he chose not to confront them. One Friday evening, Isabella dressed in a soft cream blouse and jeans, casual but carefully chosen. She was heading out to meet Ethan for dinner. Adrian glanced up briefly from his laptop. Going somewhere? Yes, she replied quickly, forcing calm. Dinner with a few colleagues. He nodded, already returning to his work. Have fun. Don't wait up. I'll be at the office late. The ease with which he accepted her absence stung more than if he would have questioned her. It confirmed what she had begun to fear, that her presence, or lack thereof, no longer mattered to him. That night, as Ethan held the door open to a quiet Italian restaurant, Isabella thought, when did Adrian stop looking at me like this? The dinners became routine. Sometimes it was coffee shops, sometimes quiet restaurants, sometimes long walks in the park. Their conversations grew deeper, intimate in ways she hadn't experienced in years. Ethan shared his struggles openly. He admitted how lonely he had been since his breakup, how he envied the stability of her marriage. Isabella, in return, confessed the hollow ache of being unseen. One night, after she poured her heart out about Adrian's absence, Ethan reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. It was a simple gesture, but the warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her. You deserve better, Isabella, he murmured. The words echoed in her chest. She pulled her hand away, heart racing, torn between guilt and desire. But the damage was done. A boundary had been crossed, even if not yet physically. Isabella knew she was walking a dangerous path. She began to feel guilty around Adrian, though he gave her little reasons to. His questions remained perfunctory, his affection minimal. One evening, as she watched him pack for yet another business trip, she forced herself to speak. Adrian, do you ever feel like we are drifting apart? He paused, frowning slightly. Isabella, I know it's been hard, but I'm doing this for us. Once I make partner, things will calm down. She swallowed hard. And what if they don't? He sighed, tired. You have to trust me. It was the same refrain she had heard for years. Trust him, wait longer, be patient. But patience has limits, and hers was fraying. The turning point came on a rainy Thursday evening. Isabella had stayed late at the office, her umbrella forgotten at home. As she stood at the glass doors watching the downpour, Ethan appeared at her side, holding an umbrella. Need a ride? He asked, smiling. She hesitated, then nodded. The drive was quiet, the rhythmic sound of rain filling the car. When they reached her house, she thanked him softly, lingering in the passenger seat longer than necessary. Ethan turned toward her, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, their eyes locked. Isabella's breath caught, her heart pounding. She knew what was about to happen, but instead, Ethan reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "Good night, Isabella," he said gently. She stumbled inside, trembling. She wanted to believe the restraint meant safety, but in truth, it only deepened the pull between them. After that night, things changed. Their conversations carried an unspoken undercurrent. Every smile lingered longer, every touch sparked more. Isabella found herself thinking of Ethan at odd hours, replaying their moments together. When Adrian called from yet another hotel room, his voice distant, she listened distractedly. Her mind was already elsewhere. One evening, during a company event, Ethan found her standing alone on the balcony. The city glowed beneath them, music spilling faintly from inside. "You look beautiful tonight," he said softly. Her heart skipped. She turned to respond, but words failed her. Instead, silence stretched between them, heavy, electric, undeniable. And then, slowly, Ethan leaned in. The balcony was quiet except for the hum of the city below. Isabella's breath caught as Ethan leaned closer, his scent, warm and faintly of cologne, wrapping around her like a dangerous comfort. For one moment, she thought of Adrian. She thought of her nights waiting for him, the untouched dinners, the cold side of the bed. She thought of her vows, of the woman she had always believed herself to be. But then Ethan's lips brushed hers, soft, tentative, yet carrying years of unspoken longing. Isabella didn't pull away. The kiss deepened, and in that single act, a line was crossed. Whatever excuses she had made for herself, "It's just friendship, it's just comfort," crumbled. This was no longer innocent, this was betrayal. When they pulled apart, both were trembling. "We shouldn't," Isabella whispered, her voice cracking. "I know," Ethan replied, though his hand lingered on her arm. "But I can't stop wanting you." Neither of them said more, but from that night forward, their relationship transformed. What began as one kiss became many. Their stolen moments grew bolder, lingering touches in the office, excuses to work late together, whispered phone calls under the cover of night. Soon they crossed another boundary. One evening, when Adrian was on a week-long case, Ethan came to Isabella's house under the guise of helping her with the work project. The project remained untouched. The night was a blur of passion and guilt. For Isabella, it was everything she had been starved of: attention, tenderness, desire. But with every sigh, with every touch, a voice inside whispered, "This is wrong." And yet, she didn't stop. The affair became a hidden world they inhabited, a world where she was wanted, where she wasn't invisible. But reality has a way of catching up. Adrian was not a fool. He had buried himself in work. Yes, but even the most distracted husband could sense change. Isabella's late nights, her distracted glances, her sudden guardedness around her phone. The signs were there. One evening, while preparing for a conference, Adrian accidentally noticed a message flash across Isabella's phone. A simple line: "Can't stop thinking about last night." The sender? Ethan. The words were few, but they detonated inside him. That night, Adrian confronted her. Isabella returned home to find him waiting in the living room, his expression unreadable, the phone in his hand. "Do you want to explain this?" he asked, his voice low, controlled. Her blood ran cold. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Silence stretched, suffocating. Finally, she whispered, Adrian, I don't lie to me. He cut in sharply. Just tell me the truth. Tears welled in her eyes. The truth, once unspeakable, tumbled out in fragments. The loneliness, the dinners, the walks, the affair. Adrian listened, his face stone. When she finished, the silence between them was heavier than any argument that could have been. Adrian didn't shout. He didn't rage. His calm was far more devastating. You made your choice, he said finally. Don't you dare put this on me. Adrian, I was so lonely. And so, your solution was to crawl in another man's bed? Do you realize what you have done? To us, to our marriage? Her tears fell freely now. I still love you. No, he interrupted, his voice cutting like ice. You loved the idea of me, but when things got hard, you chose the easy escape. That's not love, Isabella, that's weakness. She sobbed, reaching for him, but he stepped back. His decision was clear. Within weeks, Adrian filed for divorce. The golden couple, once admired by all, dissolved into tragedy. Isabella remained in the house alone, haunted by the echoes of what she had destroyed. Ethan, once her source of comfort, grew distant too. Their connection, built on secrecy and betrayal, crumbled under the weight of reality. Isabella was left with neither man, only regret. Common person perspective. For most listeners, this story stings because it feels familiar. Many have seen it play out. One partner consumed by work, the other starving for affection, the gap filled by someone outside the marriage. It raises uncomfortable questions. Who is at fault? Adrian for neglecting his wife? Or Isabella for seeking solace in another man? The truth is complex, but the lesson is simple. Relationships don't die in a single moment, they erode in silence. And when silence lingers too long, someone else will eventually step in to fill it. But betrayal is never the answer. No matter how lonely or unseen you feel, stepping outside your vows only deepens the wounds. The brave choice is confrontation, to demand honesty, to demand effort, to demand change. Because if you don't, someone else might offer you comfort, and that comfort could cost you everything. This story matters because it exposes the dangerous illusion of harmless comfort. Affairs rarely begin with intent, they begin with cracks, with loneliness, with small acts of validation that grow into dependency. Isabella didn't wake up one morning planning to betray Adrian, but step by step, a conversation, a lunch, a walk, a kiss, she crossed lines she once swore she would never. The tragedy lies not just in the betrayal, but in the lost chance to confront the truth earlier. If Isabella had voiced her pain honestly, if Adrian had listened before it was too late, perhaps their marriage could have been saved. But choices define fate, and once a line is crossed, some wounds never heal.